People think we are just drifting around Asia, and in reality we're not. This is a very much structured life that we are following at this point, and in this video I want to explain the choices that we've made so far. So my wife and I are 48 years old, and right now we are living in Malaysia. We're in Petaling Jaya, just next to Kuala Lumpur. We are on a tourist visa staying here, which allows us 90 days in the country before we have to leave and relocate somewhere else. And typically what we've done so far is move to the likes of Thailand and stay there for 30 days. At present, Thailand, you're allowed to stay between 30 and 60 days on a tourist visa, with one allowed extension for an additional 30 days, which would give you 90 in total. However, we've opted to just stay inside the 30 days and then relocate back here to Malaysia. And each time we've done that, we've passed through the e-gates here in Malaysia. We've not had a passport stamped, and that's probably one of the perks or the joys of having a UK British passport, in that travelling around is fairly easy. What we do right now is we live inside of the rules of travel, and that's 90 days in Malaysia, 30 to 60 days in Thailand, and 45 days in Vietnam, and we simply rotate. And the reasons again for doing that is that at the age of 48, we're not yet retirees. We don't have a pension to draw down. We're still ultimately living between savings and also earning whilst we make these travels. I've shared videos with you about how I bring in some additional money from this YouTube channel. I've recently started a Patreon page which has paid members across multiple tiers. Thank you to everybody who's signed up. On that Patreon page, I go a little bit deeper into some of these topics, answering questions, holding group Zoom calls to dive into some of these topics a little bit more than I can share on this YouTube channel. So I'm still earning from all of that. I live and earn from international earnings, YouTube being part of Google, which is based in America, and from stock trading, where I earn on options, which is also part of a US company. That means that I don't actually pay any tax here in Malaysia. If you are on a tourist visa here, or if you decided that you wanted to apply for a 1-year visa that you can make an application for, you don't pay any tax on international earnings. You would only pay tax here in Malaysia if you had a job that was based here in Malaysia. So that's a little bit of a perk of the travelling around. Also, there are rules in place where that if you stay in one location for 183 days or more, you could be classed as a tax resident. However, we tend to rotate around and we make sure that we don't drift into that 183-day period. So we're not retired, we don't have a pension yet to draw down, we are not applying for long-term visas until we hit the age brackets that we want to do that. And so in the meantime, we are just between that 40 and 50 years old age bracket, which means we're not, I've said before, nomad, right? But for a nomad, you're kind of thinking about people that are like 25 years old or sitting in Bali on a laptop. That's not us, right? That's not how we live. I create this content here and I share that with you, so there's a bit of an age gap there. But most of my audience that I'm talking to here sits in the same age bracket as us. So I wanted to share this video to kind of answer some of these questions. Now, here's another part that I get asked a lot, which is about the money situation. Now, I've shared costs of living videos where I've tallied up exactly what we've spent on rent, insurance, medical insurance, what we spend in a month eating at home, what we spend when we eat out, and other incidental costs. And so people often ask, like, how do you know how much money you've got and how long that lasts for? I would say this to you, there's a very simple calculation here that you can do on burn rate, and that is how much money do you have and how much do you expect to spend per month. Now, I've shared on videos I've lived as cheaply as £850 a month or $1,150 for a month, as high as more like £2,000 in a month. It really comes down to what kind of standard of life you're looking to lead. Whether you drink alcohol, you're looking for a fancy apartment, 2-bedroom place, you want a pool, you want a gym, all of those things to consider. But if you have an expected spend in your mind and you've used some of this information that I've shared, what you would do is take that monthly cost of living and just divide it by the savings that you've got. If you have £100,000 in the bank, divide £2,000 a month by the 100,000, tell you how many months you can afford to live here for. And that's a really simple calculation that will give you an idea as to how long you can survive for. Now, I compare these costs, this cost of living for £850 a month or £1,500 a month versus what I was spending in the UK. I've made videos in the past talking about that. My average month living in Northampton, paying for my rent, my council tax, my car and everything else was over £4,000 a month. So I can live here for half of that cost. Now, again, I still need to try and bring in some income, and that means it makes my savings last significantly longer. And again, people will ask, well, how do you make money online then? It's really about how creative you are and whether you can create a small business. I can tell you, I spent 31 years in sales. I have no what am I trying to say? I have no key skills. I'm not a plumber, I'm not an electrician, I'm not a joiner, I don't have any of those kind of trade skills. I'm not a programmer. I've just had a job of talking for a living, and so I've turned it into a channel, and then what I do here is share all of my knowledge. But from that, I've been able to create things. So I've built documents about how you can leave the UK and things that you need to think about, and I've sold those documents. I've built this Patreon platform now where I go into additional detail. People have signed up, became members, and now I'm earning a small amount from it. And it's about having different areas that you can bring a little bit of money in that might just offset the costs of your savings so that you're not increasing or working through that burn rate that I just talked about. This isn't like I'm not deep diving on spreadsheets here. I'm just trying to give a little bit of concept clarity to how we live. Let me give you the tier of these things. So I have the earnings that I bring in per month from YouTube, from options trading, from one-to-one conference calls, from Patreon, from anything else that I can think of. Then I have that's the top tier. Then I have my savings that sit below that. I have some in savings accounts, I have some in ISAs. You can leave the UK and still have an ISA account. You can't add more to it, you can't open a new one, but you can have money in an ISA in stocks and shares or earning interest, and you will not pay tax on any earnings within that ISA. I also have savings accounts which I will pay tax on as part of a annual self-assessment, and I take that into consideration. So initial earnings from YouTube, etc., then savings accounts and ISAs, etc., and then below that, my next tier down is my pension. I'm 48, I'm a long way off being able to access that pension, so that's my next down safety net to give me the coverage. So I've built that structure to give myself some peace of mind. Now, as I've said before, there are elements of risk attached to all of that, but I accept that in exchange for the time and quality of life that we have now versus going back to a job post-redundancy. So that's really the situation that we're in, and I wanted to just talk about that. This isn't really retirement, it's optionality. That's essentially what I'm trying to focus in on. So if you have any questions on any of that, you can drop a note down below in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. If you're interested in joining the Patreon, where I talk much more about how much money I actually have, how I manage my stocks and shares, the thought process, the risks that I go through, or you just want to ask questions about YouTube, etc., I can go much deeper and cover those topics much quicker on the Patreon site. But that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching this, and I'll see you in the next one.